If you're ready, Brett, please go ahead and start recording. Thank you, sir.
Hey, everyone, welcome to our February TMAC meeting. Today's a very important meeting for the year because we're hoping to review the purposes of TMAC and our best strategies to be successful and plan our most important agenda items for the year. To that end, well, we'll get to that. Let's start with our first action item, approving minutes from January. I read them. They were a work of beauty as usual. Good job, Judy. I motion we approve our January meeting minutes. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Today we have several items that are all towards that goal of helping us figure out what is most important for us to work on this year. First, we have some training from Gordon, and then we will have some extended TMAC introductions so that we understand the expertise we have available in this room, in addition to our city councilors and our excellent city staff. I will briefly give a summary of some of the things we worked on last year, and then we'll jump into what we can do with this year and look forward. All right, Gordon, take it away.
Thanks. So what I wanted to talk about is, well, first of all, you had the ordinance. You want to bring that real quick?
You bet. Yep.
So according to the ordinance, TMAC's responsibility is to give recommendations to the city council, the mayor, and the planning commission as things pertaining to transportation and mobility. And that, it has a lot of words, but that's what your basic purpose is. And you can read through the ordinance and understand that more. And so I have been thinking about, since last year, TMAC put together a letter to the council and the mayor talking about trying to do some more bicycle goals in the transportation master plan. And since that time, we have 3 new council people. We haven't started the transportation master plan, and the effectiveness of that letter to get something accomplished. And so I looked at this year, and I know some things are coming up. And so one of the things that you had, TMAC, had talked about was your concern about making sure that there was adequate funding for road pavement and management, and making sure that we were doing a good job with that and that we were funding it adequately. And there was even a discussion of encouraging the mayor and the council to make sure that was funded. And so, because we're coming up to the budget year, and I think as I thought about this, I kind of discouraged you from writing that letter yet. And the reason for that is the city council has directed us to do a study this year on the utility transportation fee. So it's in the budget to do this. And when we start that process, it's going to look at the needs of the city, but the city council also asked us to look at possibly doing it for capital projects for adding new sidewalks into the city. And so I think there'd be a real advantage for us to do the study, have a presentation to TMAC, make sure they understand it, and then give a recommendation. And the reason for this is this will likely involve additional costs. The fee could go up, and it would be good that the city council and the mayor hear, how do you feel, what's this body's recommendation? So as they're presenting this and they're getting this, they have an idea of what a citizens committee feels about these costs, about whether we should be paying for how much sidewalk, what project of sidewalks, how much we should be funding. I thought that would be a more meaningful moment to address that specific issue. Other things that are going to be hitting TMAC or the whole city hard is we had a meeting about a week ago with the administration, maybe 2 weeks ago, talking about our steps forward with the 820 North Bridge and pedestrian Provo River. And one of the things that was talked about was giving a presentation to the council and to TMAC and getting recommendations. And so there will be times to write letters of recommendation of what you think what you feel about various projects, but the intent would be to do it as part of a presentation and that request when it's going to hit at a time that everybody's going to have to be making decisions. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think what our goal is as staff is to give you a bunch of information, educate you, let you understand topics. We've presented things to you on pavement management, with bicycles, mobility, with UTA, and all kinds of things. We want you to have those things so that when issues hit administration and the city council, you have them back now, but then we can hit you with the same presentation and bring back recommendations. So that's my vision of how best to utilize you to accomplish what's in the city ordinance. So I guess questions. Any city council comments?
We would love to hear from committees, so that would be a great start implementing it where we do hear from TMAC. Like you said, we definitely are we need to do the study which we're very excited to do. So we are interested in we need to understand what money we receive yearly on that at present, how much more we're going to receive, and understand the amounts of money and how far we are behind on just asphalt. And then, we've done a street and sidewalks, we're way behind. I don't know, just understanding all those numbers and big picture that we can, because the legislation isn't out yet, but we don't know for sure that we can do it for more than asphalt, but we'll see when it comes through. And then it could be a percentage thing, we could be a year-to-year thing that we decide a percentage, I don't know, but it's something that we have to figure out.
So it sounds like there'll be benefit in having this recommendation, because if you're going to increase fees potentially or do any of that stuff, the council doesn't want to get this going in a vacuum. They would like to have fee.
For sure.
Feedback.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like your idea of timing. You got a random letter in the middle of it's not attached to any particular decision. It's easy for that once it's in the rear view mirror. But if a committee is coming to us, and I think Patrice maybe mentioned this, we'd love, one of you to come to the meeting and represent the committee and say, we discussed this is how we feel about it. That's a really good idea. Very, very helpful. And I would add to that if there are things on our agendas that have some relevance to your work that you have strong feelings about as a committee, I don't think it's, I don't see a downside of hearing from you to say, we have long been thinking about this, like the 1450 East Connector Street issue is going to come up at some point. I don't even know if that's ever going to be a legislative decision at all. I mean,
it'll be a legislative, so it will be.
Okay, but so that's the kind of thing where when we're going through the public hearings and people are going to have all kinds of opinions, but what the TMAC thinks about that, because I'm just thinking about other things that might be triggered by our agendas. That if you're wanting to weigh in on that and send us a letter and say we evaluated this. Maybe I'm just saying the same thing. I'm just wanting to make sure that we're catching whatever items you want to have input on, and that I'm not saying you have to write a letter every single time, but if it's valuable enough to you, important enough to you that you want to work in on it, that goes a long way.
So I like what you said there. It may be valuable to have a TMAC representative not write a letter, but show up, present the letter, and say something. So I think that probably carries a little extra weight, and we can schedule more meetings for you. So I like every aspect of this.
You can't offer Cafe Rio every time.
No.
Yes, I just want to emphasize that there are decision-making bodies. we probably have more information than that at point. But it's not our job, it's not to us.
No, it's always gonna stop at the city council. I think the reason this committee was created was to make sure that the city council is getting as much information as possible. And I do think there's value in having a sounding board so that sometimes council can be bombarded by staff and other kinds of things and people talking to them, but it's good to have a citizens group that focus on specific items, you know, that would relate to transportation, you know, that talk to them. And I think that's why you have a planning commission. So, but I think the city council knows because every resident tells them when they make a mistake and they don't hesitate to let you know their opinion. So, but I do think it's valuable to, they don't make mistakes, so it's just when they don't agree. That's the whole thing.
I could have edited that later on.
Yeah, we got a 4-second delay.
By order of the council.
All in favor?
Perceived mistake by somebody that isn't. Anyway, the council's always right, so you've got to remember that as a staff. When the council votes, that's the right decision.
Oh, boy.
My only thought with regard to this is just to make sure the information comes early enough.
I have a similar.
I've seen it in the past where it's sort of like, oh, we finished this thing, council meetings in a week, and it's sort of like, whoa.
Yeah, this stuff will come fast.
Yeah.
But what I do, because you meet once a month, they're meeting every 2 weeks,
Yeah,
and
it's
sometimes every week when they have work meetings. And so I can see, I talked to Joy earlier in the week, and I think we're gonna see whole meetings dedicated to these topics. And we're probably within a month of the bridge over Provo River, 2 months, 2 meetings away. So we'll be seeing that happen. But yeah, it was about
I'll comment on that. So last year, we learn things all the time. Last year, we learned that when we do make a recommendation, it needs to not just go to the council, but also to the mayor's office. We learned that. This year, I feel like my big lesson I learned so far is timing, that we will be most effective if we get the timing right as TMAC. That's hard because we meet less often than the council does, but as we can see, Gordon and I were talking about things we can see coming up the next few months. We need to get that timing right so we can talk about things and make any recommendations we want to make before it hits council. So I think that's a job for Jeff and for me and for city staff to make sure we do better at getting our timing right on the issues we're talking about at TMAC.
So that's really all I wanted to say about how I think we can communicate effectively with the administration, the mayor, and the council. So that was.
Thanks, Gordon. And I realized I was so excited for our meeting today, I completely skipped that one. But luckily, we have introductions on here twice. So could we have our city staff introduce themselves, and then TMAC members will go after that today, and I'll explain that in a minute. So let's go and start. Vern, if you wouldn't mind.
Joseph E&D Provo Public Works.
Coordinate Provo City Public Works now. So
Are you the director?
I'm the acting director, so there's going to be an effort made to do a search and so until that happens. Part of that.
Extra busy for us.
So I heard, but what is Dave doing?
So Dave is now at BYU. And their fine maintenance, please. Last day is let him go.
Still in engineering. George and Patrice joining us.
George, am I on the council?
Hey, Hanshur with Provo City Public Works.
Vogel,
Ongoing Development Services Department.
Okay, thank you. regarding our TMAC members, we have two relatively new TMAC members, and also, since we have Dorothy Teresa attending now, I want you to just have a chance to understand who's here at TMAC and what resources we have here. So I asked TMAC members to prepare. Let's go, Greg couldn't be here, but he made a video, so let's start with Greg. He's so diligent. So let's start with this.
Hi, my name is Greg Provo. Apologize. But I thought it'd be helpful to introduce myself. I grew up in Provo. I'm a graduate of Provo High School. I lived in the Tree Street neighborhood for most of growing up. I now live in downtown Provo. I'm looking to buy a house. We'll see if that happens anytime soon. But I'm also a professor of civil engineering at Provo University. I teach classes in transportation engineering, transportation planning, public work area, sustainability. My research and my professional expertise is in long-range models of transportation behavior and transportation project decision-making. So I'm very interested in helping TMAC understand some of long-range population and transportation forecasts, in providing some expertise in the issues that we deal with. I'm happy to serve. Happy to put my time on the commission so far.
Lisa, would you like to chime in? She's joining in remotely today, and she wasn't sure if she would allow background or not. So she might not. She sent me her information, which I can read. She said, okay, great, Lisa, introduce yourself. Great.
You know what? Just read it, and I'll just smile pretty like.
She says, I'm going to save on your priority till later, but she says, though I was appointed to serve on TMAC as representative from the Planning Commission, it is one of my favorite ways to serve in the city. Transportation and mobility issues have always been interesting and important to me. One of my favorite classes I took as a student 30 years ago was my transportation engineering class. I graduated from BYU with a bachelor's degree in planning and resource management. I worked about 18 months in Provo's Community Development Department, now called Development Services. Before embarking on motherhood full-time, I am also passionate about the interplay of trails and roads, as I much prefer walking or biking to driving a car wherever possible. Perhaps I should be embarrassed to admit this, but one of my most recent audiobook adventures was a book about ways to balance parking space demand with development requirements in cities. So you can see that Lisa is all in. And then I can share her priorities later when we get to that. Jeff, would you like to go?
Sure, I'd like to know the title of that book sometime. In Provo for about 20 years, about when self-driving cars were the next big thing. I kind of wanted to learn more about that, and somehow that ended me up at places like Congress for New Urbanism, City Lab, Strong Towns, places like that. 2017, I helped Larry Walters when they had the special mayoral election. That kind of got me a little more familiar with Provo city organization and politics. I did Provology in 2019. Wasn't sure if I was going to stick around, so I didn't immediately try to find a board or commission to be a part of. But I've been active in cycling in the city for a while, and I just kept reading. I don't know why, but it was interesting to me. So my interests are the biking infrastructure type stuff, and then of course city finance and budgeting, which is weird, but I read it every year. So
We need people like
Yeah, really important. Okay, thanks.
I'm David Hurtado. Mostly a regular show here, but grew up in Northeast Provo, Teresa's backyard. Our houses have a little park, but we're the back fence neighbors as kids. Gotten around Provo my whole life in a variety of ways, many of them on two wheels, some motorized and some not motorized. I have a car. For a lot of years, I didn't have a car. I rode a scooter, like a Vespa, several years, day in, day out. So pretty familiar with Provo's roads, I guess. than that, I don't have a particular educational background or, special qualifications that bring me here, but I am a citizen and interested in safe modes of transportation for everybody, no matter how you get around.
I'm Jim Handula. I've lived in Provo this time around 6 years. Over here, got my bachelor's degree here. Went away 25 years as an environmental lawyer, representing municipalities and utility companies and mining companies with environmental matters. To Utah, I eventually found a place at Miller there. I think that's how I got involved in transportation here in the city. I was working a lot for Larry Miller on sustainability matters and develop their sustainability that interacts with cars and currently working as an environmental land use and real estate attorney. Variety of developers and studies as well. I'm not always here because I sometimes have meetings elsewhere. Sometimes.
That's now officially province. I lived in West Provo for over 18 years now. I started right after my last baby was born. I started into the neighborhood program, which is now the district program. Was neighborhood chair, was an area representative, was on the neighborhood advisory committee, was on the Provo Police Citizens Advisory Board, which I don't think they do anymore. I was on the West Side Development Committee. Just started loving Provo for its diversity and all types of backgrounds that have great voices. I lots and lots of ideas. I tend to keep them to myself sometimes though, because they're not as popular as other people's ideas, but I love listening, getting the data, and trying to find the best solution for everybody.
My contribution is I am an average Provo citizen. So any issue that comes up, I like to ask the questions that a normal citizen would ask, kind of like Dave, and like I'm normal. But my focus is often on from a lens of women, children, and families and transportation in Provo, since that's my world right now. I have kids on any given day walking, biking, and driving to 3 different schools, and my husband bikes to work, and I walk all over the place, and we drive carpools across town, you know, with kids going to activities. And so I am an active user of multiple transportation networks, and I also try to be aware of our college student population as much as I can. I live really close to them, and they don't live in Provo long enough to have a seat on TMAC, but they're such a wonderful part of our city, and their needs are often different than the rest of us, and I like to be mindful of them. My background is in communication and education, and I spend a lot of time at the schools on various committees and volunteering. So if ever there's an issue that affects safe routes to schools or education and transportation, that intersection is something I'm really passionate about. So that's my background. No.
I just wanted to join TMAC mostly because I didn't want my arm broken any longer by Vern, who kept twisting my arm. TMAC kind of sounds cool. It kind of sounds like a superhero. So yeah, I'm Noah Gordon, a lifelong resident. My wife and I both were born in Provo and have lived here pretty much ever since. BYU. I attended BYU to get my bachelor's and master's both in civil engineering, where I mostly focused on transportation, water resources, and GIS, which basically means I didn't like structures. So since graduating from BYU, I've worked since the mid-90s, late 90s. Consultant for about a decade, engineering kind of stuff. I worked for about a decade in Springville as their assistant city engineer, and for the last years, I'm the city engineer in Lincoln. We get to deal with transportation issues that are similar but different. We don't have a university, as with BYU or anything like it. You, Linden, so we'll get to deal with the same kinds of issues in my day job. I just restored a 1992 Miata. So I do drive a car, and yeah, I like the road, so and stick shift. So there you go.
Is that a convertible?
It is, and I had not been driving. I leave the top down all the time. So
They did pass the emissions.
So there's an interesting story on that. So you want to hear this? So I got the
I'd
vintage.
stop recording if I had.
Yeah, you can. I got the vintage plates because it was 30 years old, and then so everything was good, not needing emissions anymore. And then the next year, they said I needed emissions, so that got repealed. So luckily, I did not take any of the small controls off. So yes, it does pass emissions, but that was not fun. I was planning on taking them off.
So I want emergency especially to know, like, as you look around, any issue that comes up, if you want to talk about scooters, Dave is an expert. You want to talk, I mean, got Lisa from Planning Commission, we've got our own engineer, in addition to our city engineers. We've got Jim with his background with environmental issues that always go along with transportation, and Beth, who knows police and West Side, and Jeff, who actually reads city budgets, which is very important. So I feel like we could go around, and Greg has the academic perspective, and so we have all these different perspectives for anything that you want to throw to TMAC. We have this wealth of experience that will hopefully be able to truly help the council and administration. So just be aware of, now you know who's here. Welcome to join our party. Okay, as we start to look forward, we're doing well on our time. Here's a few of the things, by way of reminder, that we worked on last year. We spent a lot of time debating what to do with the 2013 bike master plan that no one remembered existed except maybe a few people. Bike Walk Provo knew about it. Jeff and Clancy, who was a member at the time, went through it. We discussed how to make recommendations, what to do, what to keep. And we really wanted that to be a useful document, not a forgotten document. So that felt really good to send those recommendations on to the mayor and the council. We talked a lot about, at Bill Fillmore's request, about balance. There's a constant tension between the different modes of transportation, and we looked at where is our money spent. Gordon gave us a budget presentation on what our dollars actually go to, our transportation dollars, and we're surprised to see that there was actually much more equity than we thought among the different modes of transportation. Hannah gave us many presentations on sustainability and also aspects of the upcoming general plan that relate to transportation. And multiple presentations on road maintenance and discussions about those things. We had multiple presentations on the 300 South Improvement Project. We talked about the flood traffic control plan when there was so much water last spring and we had to have a plan, which was mostly Gordon, but we got to chime in a little bit. Beth and Noah joined us last year. We talked about the station area plans that are moving forward. We talked about gateways on multiple occasions. That was another item that Bill wanted to talk about. How do we make Provo welcoming? We had multiple presentations on scooters from Dave, from Provo Parks, from representative from Bird Scooter, all part of building our understanding so that we can talk in an informed way about this, all the emerging technologies and the complicated, unregulated situation we have. We had regular updates from Vern on our active transportation, the trail networks and the improvements, the transportation mobility improvements throughout the city every quarter. And we talked about grants that we were applying for related to transportation, the ones we got, the ones we didn't get, and what effects those would have. So those are a few of the things as I was going back through the minutes and the agendas from last year that I saw. Also, many times that we talked about specific safety situations that came up. Things we didn't get to that we had identified as priorities, some of our top priorities for last year. We didn't talk a whole lot about east-west connectivity. We didn't work as much as we wanted to on residential connectors and collectors and our traffic calming measures and safety improvements. So those are two things that we can certainly carry on to this year. Any additional comments from TMAC members? Things you want to make sure record shows we talked about. There's always more than we can ever get to. So it was a busy year. So now we're going to turn to 2024, how we can best help the council this year. And George and Katrina are prepared to talk to us about that.
Sure.
Okay.
The transportation fees has already been talked about.
Yeah.
And we just found out Tuesday that that's already been budgeted for that study. So we're really excited that can be done. The legislature we do know that one component of their legislation will be that study has to be done every 10 years. And ours is about over 10 years old. But the other thing I was thinking is that I've talked to Parks and Rec about this, but it's not particularly their thing. I think it's more of a TMAC thing. But all of our trails, right? We have so many trails all over the city, and they're getting more interconnected with Lakeview Parkway and other things. And we need to figure out the best signage, the best motorized, the speed limit on motorized. What are the rules going to be on motorized on them? How do we enforce? How should we break that up? Are we going to stick to walking and bikes and motorized? I don't know. I think that all needs to be looked at as the landscape has changed. So many motorized vehicles. And those are going to get busier and busier, I think. Safety issue. And I've received multiple emails from citizens over the last, since I've become a council member, about concern over that, that they get scared, that they get pushed off the trail, that we're going too fast. We think that we need to figure out. And I think we need absolute uniformity between all the trails so that this doesn't change, right? If you're in this area or that area, that's more consistent. Know what the standards are. But I think that's a good thing for TMAC to help our plan with that.
Yeah, I would just, the short term is the utility fee. We want to get that fee right. We want to know how to use it. And everything. We need more money to just pave our streets. We need more money to build sidewalks. We need more money to repair sidewalks. We need more money to build new bike trails. Just yesterday or Tuesday, Gordon was talking about the Lakeview walking trail that would be paved that needs to be connected all the way to the north. I know there's been conversation with, I don't know if you were on that field trip with Springville to talk about Spring Creek, is that what it's called? Spring Creek. Yeah, I mean, there's a potential trail that could connect Provo to Springville on a paved trail, which would be recreationally valuable for commuters. It would be a game changer because then you could avoid State Street altogether. And I know lots of people who commute, up to Provo from down there. So I would say longer term, I think there are bigger projects that I would hope we could coordinate with Hannah, with our what do we call it? The shorthand is sustainability plan, but it's
the conservation
and resiliency plan. Yeah, so the conservation and resiliency plan has a lot of goals about air quality, and that pertains a lot to what you're trying to figure out, right? I mean, the less time cars are spent idling or in traffic, our air quality is better. The fewer cars that we have, the better the air quality, the safer everything is, the better flow there is. So, and it is a balance. It is a matter of finding, I think, Joy, you sound like you're kind of exactly positioned between all of those modes to give us that balanced perspective. But I think I would love to know from TMAC what you feel, and like I say, coordinating with that plan and with Hannah to figure out how to start implementing in some aggressive ways to set some goals I mean, you know, I don't want to just dream about those trails. I want to make them happen. I don't want to just dream about that funding for all of those curbs and repair work. I want to figure out how to make it happen. And I don't know that any of us has exactly the answer, but utility fee is one place to start.
Utility fee?
But you know, if there are grants that we're not getting that we need to be going after, are there partnerships that we don't have that we need to find? You know, in desperate times, some cities bond for things like this. They say, okay, we're going to bond for street repair or for curb repair or for a major, you know, I don't know what paid for the Provo River Parkway Trail initially. I know county paid for part of that, but that to me is one of the greatest things in the city. You know, it's a major gem and it's an asset, but of course it's also a maintenance issue. So we have to not only build things, but we have to be able to imagine and facilitate their maintenance. So I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is that it would be nice to spend some time planning longer term plan, making, you know, looking at what's already in our long-term plans and then helping the council figure out how to take the most pragmatic steps toward those goals so that we don't lose sight of them. That's my biggest worry, is that we went through the trouble of creating that plan and it'll just sit there as a pie in the sky kind of thing, and it won't get implemented. It won't make any difference. So, you know, if you have specific goals or ideas for how to measure our progress when it comes to transportation and mobility, I think that would be very helpful.
Thank you.
I mean, I figure I've got, you know, I'm not, you know, imagining the possibility of a third term as a city council member. That sounds so unimaginable to me that I kind of suffer trauma when I think about it. Although I've loved it. That sounds really weird, but I just said it that way. But the idea of doing, anyway, my point is, I think I'll be done in 2 years. And I want to get as much done on this issue as I can in 2 years. So I want to work with you on it.
Lovely. Any comments or questions for our city council members from TMAC?
One of the observations I have,
Year and a half. We
sorry?
started the same day.
Okay.
I'm watching it.
Sounds like you're counting the days.
Not that I'm, great. I think I can relate to George a little bit.
It is that we have tended to respond to discrete issues. And while they're all important, and they really haven't been able to have a general goal that we're trying to achieve. And personally, I like the idea of trying to have transportation mobility issues developed, pursued, resolved with sustainability focus. What are we trying to achieve? Rather than simply trying to say, how do we fix this problem in the short term?
Visionary rather than reactionary.
Yes, I'd recommend that we try to articulate a vision, maybe, not that that hasn't been done in these generalized, but we have a lot of generalized plans. I'm not sure what the intersection is or what the connecting tissue is between them all. I'm not sure that's our role here, but at least through the transportation lens, try to articulate where we as citizens in this community would like transportation and mobility issues to move towards. And background is the issues. I don't teach it like George does, and he hasn't. He writes books on them, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the issue of the future. be helpful in the long term. It seems to me that we need to tackle these issues with a goal in mind that I would hope would be a more sustainable future for
Follow up on that. Thanks, Jim. I don't know, Hannah, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I wonder if it might be helpful at some future meeting, because I haven't done this in my head or on paper either, is to go through the conservation and resiliency plan and really see where it pertains to this committee, and then, I don't know.
Google also has their environmental impact data. Ones from the general.
I asked TMAC members to prepare, to also share what they feel with our breadth of knowledge here, what they think our priorities for the year should be. Jim just addressed that, but you can plan more. But I'd like any TMAC members who'd like to chime in, to add in. Can I read Lisa's really quickly and then we'll go
ahead.
Jeff and Beth. Lisa says, my main priority for this year is to figure out how to make the road maintenance fund more in line with actual need. Whether this is by raising the amount we pay each month on our utility bill, controversial topic I know, or by finding more money in the budget, it seems like a very important thing to tackle. We can plan all the beautiful roads and bike lanes we want, but if we don't have money to maintain them, we will be singing a sad song in just a few more years. So there's Lisa. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I raised my hand because I didn't realize it was agenda priorities, but it was priorities.
Yeah.
And I came down pretty much the same as George, but I added money in there as well. So kind of like between George and Lisa, is just connecting what we do here to the long-term plans that already exist. And we have Valley Vision 2050, a lot of regional stuff that we have that we don't always connect to. We talk a lot about the general plan and the Provo City specific things, but I think in 2024, I also want to prioritize remembering MAG, and that they have a lot of stuff out there as well, a lot of plans. Interconnectedness with our neighbor cities is the deal, is interconnectedness inside our city.
General ideas are great, and yes, we need to see what our long-term vision is and everything. I still think we need to focus on the priorities so that we can get one of them being east-west connectivity throughout the entire city, but also a discussion on micro-mobility. I really think that's extremely important to our long-term vision. I think you've been on two wheels most of your time in Provo, and I don't think micro-mobility, and I'm including walking, biking, anything that's not car related. I don't think micro-mobility has had a huge play except for biking in any long-term planning. And I think that's kind of where the kids are going with their big wheels and e-bikes and e-transportation.
We'll go to Noah.
Yeah, I just would echo what Katrina said. I love that Provo is connected by such good trails. Provo Parkway opened when I was in high school, and I was on a mountain bike all the time, and I loved it. I love those things, but we have to, as we're increasing the utilization of those things with all these different vehicles, it's created a chaotic situation. If we don't figure it out, get it right, then that defeats the purpose.
Back to maintenance.
Please, we need that lens also.
Yeah, every city struggles with this. How do you pay to maintain these roads? Developers build them, fight to get them to build them up to city standards. They build them, and then during boom times, you get a whole bunch of new roads, and then 30 years later, they all fall apart. And I was looking at this it was Omaha that said, we're just not going to mill roads anymore, we're just going to mill them up and leave them as gravel. We cannot afford to replace the pavement. I threw that out to the citizens of Linden, and they all looked at me like I just fell off the back of the truck.
Can I point something out? I was actually looking at statistics this week. Omaha, the metropolitan statistical area of Omaha, is one of Provo's nearest neighbors in terms of population right now.
Interesting comparison.
So it's the Provo or a metropolitan statistical area that goes from American Fork, Lehigh area down to Santa.
So that's the route they chose to go. Most citizens don't want to do that. They want their cars clean or their vehicles clean. It's pretty hard to ride skateboard or some other kind of transportation on a gravel road. So, yeah, figuring out this transportation utility fee now that legislators, bodies are kind of giving us some framework to work in is going to be really interesting. I don't know how that's going to pertain to this kind of idea of sidewalk. Roads, but
There's last time that bike paths are less expensive to maintain. That was helpful information to me, but yes, so maybe different from, who knows?
yeah, it's
We could
different
talk about
asphalt,
that. Yeah,
or if you do them in
it's
concrete, you can save a lot of money in the long run, but it costs. It's all those kinds of issues, life cycle costs, sustainability, and quite frankly, east-west connectivity. So that means that, I don't know what's going on, frankly, right now with the 820 north, I-15 interchange. It takes you as long to get across town as it does to get from Salt Lake down to Provo. That seems kind of ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't matter what mode you're on either. You just can't get across the city. Like, it takes as long to get from my house, I swear, to BYU as it does. Like, it takes me longer than getting home from work from Linden, and I take Geneva Road over. So, seems like there's not really any connectivity east-west. But then they've got, I used to live in the area that at 820 North running right through it during the time that had all those. Nick Jones, former city engineer, lived 2 doors down from me. He said, I got crucified in those town meetings from people about, like, how dare you even think about putting an interchange on 820 North. And I was one of the few people supporting it, but it was probably not popular.
For the broad general plans, we did a statistically correct survey, and that was one of the top items that
They all complain about it until it's, but not through my neighborhood. So put it someplace else.
Yeah.
It's going to be through some.
You mentioned like the road thing. I went to a neighborhood conference in the Atlanta area, and so he took us around and we drove around and talked about neighborhoods. So it was interesting. They don't have sidewalks. We only have sidewalks downtown. That was like crazy for me. Like, I guess in Seattle where I live, they didn't have sidewalks either. But I was like, so what about? But now I know people care a lot about sidewalks. So as a city council, I brought it up, and they're like, well, we can't afford a sidewalk. Just walk and everyone walks and bikes on the road. There are no sidewalks. They just said we can't afford it. I don't know. Which city was that?
That's okay. Okay, that's okay. No,
It was some. I swear Atlanta, it was like Atlanta area, like Alabama.
Okay.
I didn't look that up. Or they have in the records from my flight or something.
All your thoughts, Greg had emailed his. He said, in my opinion, the most pressing issues are, 1, traffic calming on minor arterials and collector roads, preferably through good engineering design, more curb bulb-outs, more roundabouts, actual or psychological street narrowing with paint, etc. And 2nd, active transportation facilities that allow for all users to have safe and reasonably direct paths in a connected network. Often you can get item 2 by focusing on item 1 and vice versa. Classic Greg. It's really great. I would say, as I asked myself, and I'd love for our city staff to chime in at the end, at what the priorities were that I would think of. One was the transportation utility fee and road maintenance. One was east-west mobility. One was scooters and other emerging e-technologies. And one was safety spots. So kind of summarizing what a lot of people have said. Any of our city staff like to chime in with things that they think would be important for us to cover this year? Thanks, Hannah.
I guess the one thing that I would add, I mean, good thing is we're seeing UTF finally becoming a hot topic. I mean, you can see the ordinance was approved back in 2013, so it's been 11 years.
So we're the first city to do it, right?
It was, yes, so exactly right, yeah. In fact, Vern here, I'm sure he will kind of chime in there, but Vern was involved in getting this established for the city of Provo. So back from 2013, I wouldn't say the first time, we did had a little bit of bump about 6-7 months ago to it, which, yeah, it helped, but nothing to what it needs to.
Sorry, we did a bump when?
Not too long ago, there was 60,000 total bump that was made
5%.
last July. Yeah, it's a very small amount.
You missed it, great, that was really successful.
With the cost of asphalt, labor, I mean, looking at all the inflation and everything, so that 5% is nothing.
And we were able to do that without a study. Which is considered like inflation.
I believe an inflation-related bump, yes. So that's a good thing to see that finally we're looking at UTF. We are going to be doing a study, so that's a good thing as well to see that the study was involved as part of the budget. The other thing that I would say, the UT and Utah Trail Network. So that's becoming a hot topic as well. Within UDOT, they have formed a department that is dedicated to UTN. So their goal will be connectivity between counties, cities, states to get the trails actually connect to each other. Some of our big trails could play a part in it. And this will not be maintaining the trails. The fund will be used for actually establishing new trails. I know that there's a recurring and a one-time fee that is involved and as part of the budget to get that UTN moving. On top of my head right now, I don't remember the exact amount, but good to see that that's something that's happening as well. So soon we might get UDOT and some of the other cities start working together when it comes to some of their trails that connect cities between each other. So that collaboration will play a big role. Yeah, just those two items that I would say will be items that we should keep an eye for 2024. Yeah.
Yeah, good, okay.
Sorry,
Yes,
I was just gonna
sure.
say, I really appreciated all the TMAC members kind of giving us a little bit of background. The one thing that's common among all of you all love Provo. And I can see that, I can sense it, I can feel it, and I just really appreciate that. All the topics that you mentioned are all valid, and I think they're worthy of consideration. Balancing the funding, the amount of staff to dedicate toward these wonderful topics is always the difficult part, right? For me, it's about pedestrian safety. For me, if you're asking me, pedestrian safety is first and foremost in the city of Provo. I also want maintenance. UTF, I brought transportation utility fees to the state of Utah. But our vulnerable road users are getting hit. I'm especially concerned about my safe routes to school. So that's my topic.
And I don't know, on Tuesday we do have priorities, and that's one of our priorities. Walks around.
Thank you so much, everyone, for taking the time today. It's always tempting to just run off in a direction, but I really want to make sure we're running in the right direction. So thank you for taking the time. I will take this list, and Jeff and I can work with our city, with Vern and Carolyn, planning our agendas. I think next month, what did we say we need to talk about is it 820 North or UTF?
That's probably, if the UTF is passed by the state legislature, we'll talk about that bill.
Okay.
I just provided additional on that. We're probably 2 months away from presentation about the Provo River Bridge.
So we will.
Would you be talking about 820 North?
No, that's probably 2 months out.
Oh, that's the Provo River Bridge and Trail.
The Provo River
That
Bridge
is
and
820
Trail.
North.
Talk about it, the right name.
Sorry.
I heard bridge over troubled water.
Not inaccurate.
I'm asking because I don't think, I will be traveling next month, so I won't be.
Okay. So wait, I know that one was on your list last time that you specifically mentioned to me, but, and we'll try to get, a mix of the timing, current issues that we talked about with also the long-term planning, like Jim had talked about, and George, that a mix in our agendas of the immediate needs and the long-term thoughtfulness. As Jeff told me over Christmas break, because we love Provo, we want to actually move things forward in positive ways, and that's our goal. And I had wanted to say earlier, the whole reason that I'm on this committee is because I realized years ago that there's a strong connection between transportation and economics, and we need to have strong economy in Provo so that we can have the funding we need for our city and for our schools. So I'm very interested in helping transportation help our city be the best it can be, and not take forever to get across town, and have beautiful trails. we love the Provo Trail.
Highland is beating out that stat with the highest income.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. Any final comments or concerns before we adjourn? Whew, we're done 5 minutes early today. That's never happened before. Go team. Thank you.